Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us today to talk about pre-K in North Carolina. We're excited today to have with us Shenell Thompson. Shenell is the Senior Program Officer for the Local Impact in Forsyth County at the Kate B. Reynolds Charitable Trust. She holds a master's degree from Webster University in Human Resource Development and Management and a bachelor's degree from Central Missouri State University. In her role at the Trust, she works with grantees and partners to build an inclusive economy in Forsyth County and manages the Trust's Great Expectations initiative to ensure that all children in Forsyth County enter kindergarten ready to learn and leave for success. Leave ready for success. So this is what an exciting program to be involved in, Shenell. Before joining the Trust in 2020, she also founded the Brick by Brick Consulting and served as the organization's CEO. Prior to that, she worked for over 15 years as Director of Assets and Opportunities for the Financial Pathways of Piedmont. Very experienced in running programs and making successful opportunities for our children and our economy and our community. And we're very pleased to have you here with us today, Shenell. And joining us also is Dr. Heather Coons, who is the Communication Director at Public Schools First NC. So Heather, if you want to help us get started with this great opportunity to talk to Shenell Thompson.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you again for joining us today and sharing with us your wonderful work. We're thrilled to hear about it and just learn more about pre-K and what's happening in North Carolina and Forsyth County. So just to kick us off, can you tell us about your organization and how pre-K became a focus of your grant making?
Absolutely. So as Yvonne stated, I work for Kate B. Reynolds Charitable Trust, and we are a statewide foundation focused on improving health and quality of life for residents in North Carolina. And specifically here in Forsyth County, we have long supported an initiative called Great Expectations. And from that, one of the pinnacles of the work is around our opportunity to ensure that all children have access to quality pre-K experiences. So that they enter kindergarten ready to learn and leave school set for success in life. And we want to make sure that that happens for all children, regardless of their race, regardless of the color of their skin, their family's income, or where they live.
So can you talk a little bit about what you see in your work and what you're experiencing as barriers to high quality pre-K for all students?
Yeah, so one of the things we know is that while we do have pre-K slots, that about 70% of families choose to have their children cared for in informal childcare settings. And what data is telling us is that, there are a couple of reasons why that happens. One, oftentimes people may not feel like their children are being with folks who honor their cultural experiences and values, the cost of pre-K. And so it becomes the opportunity for families to say, we would rather our children be cared for with family, friends, and neighbors. But data is telling us that when children are in high quality childcare experiences, that they are able to arrive at school ready to learn. So there are particular things that we've noticed that children come. It's not just about, are they learning their ABCs? It's the social and emotional learning that they are gaining prior to being able to go into kindergarten. My children are adults, but what I can say is children don't go to kindergarten with the same expectations in 2024 that they did in the early 2000s. We are looking for scholars to arrive in kindergarten, and we want to do what we can do, what we can to help with that. So when we talk about barriers, expense is one. But the data shows us that for families, they choose who cares for their children based on where they feel comfortable. But we want to make sure that everyone can afford daycare. So if we remove the copay or the responsibility of families to pay, also very long wait lists. We do not have enough seats in Forsyth County and in North Carolina for every child who is 4 years old. And then the other things that we understand that are barriers is just what's going on with our teacher pipeline. We don't have the workforce to substantiate that. We have seen during COVID, we've lost many of our early child care teachers. And so we really are at a critical moment where we really need to do more to ensure that everyone who is working in the system, they're being paid, that they are being honored as professionals, and that we continue to increase those spaces.
So you you recently put out a terrific op-ed about a program that's been piloted through the work that you all are funding. Can you talk a little bit about that and what you learned from this? It was a large pilot, 30 classroom pre-K model cohort. Can you tell us a little bit about what you learned and what that program, what was piloted? Describe it for us. And
Yeah, so I think before I hop into the program, I want to talk a little bit about our pre-K priority work because that was kind of the impetus for how we were able to get this large bucket of funding in Forsyth County. So the pre-K priority started about 2014, and that's where we had stakeholders come together to really talk about how do we get the momentum to ensure that we can get children into schools. And so we brought stakeholders, organizations that oftentimes had been seen as competitors into rooms to really start vying and doing the work. And so one of the things that we saw as the application came together for this ARPA funding was people who had never worked together on applications coming in to really apply for this funding and get in front of our county commissioners and really advocate for what that money would look like. So we ended up with nearly $4 million in allocations from ARPA funds over 2 years to support this pre-K model. In 30 classrooms, we were investing in teacher strategies, helping teachers to get the tools and skills that they need to do a better job at managing their classrooms. Some teachers were able to go into programs where they were increasing their certifications, getting degrees, and that was being offset with stipends from their organizations, but also through the ARPA dollars. As far as what happened with the children, one of the things that we saw is that we've been able to see in just 1 year how much growth children have experienced in that year of just having their teachers learn more about social and emotional learning, classroom management, and also how do they ensure that the children are getting the skills. So we're really excited to see what's going to happen next year. As we've got 2 years to kind of track this data, teachers who are moving forward, getting associate degrees and bachelor's degrees in early childhood education is also going to make a significant difference in what children are learning in those classrooms.
it's pretty astonishing what was accomplished in just 1 year of the program. It really bodes well for if future funding comes down the pipeline for these programs. So what are you seeing in your work and in these programs that how universal access to high quality pre-K helps whole communities thrive?
So I think there are a couple of things that we talk about. One, if children arrive ready to learn, it helps them to have a better perspective of education. So when they're coming into classrooms and they're having a great first experience, their first perceptions of their early childhood educators is positive, they tend to do better in school. But we also show when children show up to kindergarten ready to learn that their reading proficiency levels do not hit that taper that children are experiencing. And so if we can get them to the third grade and make sure that they don't have learning gaps, that they are reading at proficiency, statistics show us that these students will get through high school and be prepared to either go on to college, get a certification in some type of career or workforce, and also be able to earn living wages. And that's really what economic mobility is about, ensuring that we can disrupt this data that says in Forsyth County, if a child is born in poverty, that they're more likely to live in poverty their entire lives. So we see this as a full scale, full circle moment. If we start with the children, we can ensure that when they become adults, they have better outcomes as well.
Yeah, that's fantastic. It really does have benefits for years and generations. Absolutely. So Yvonne mentioned, just at the beginning, our legislators are coming back to town in a few weeks. So if you could speak to them, what kind of messages do you think would resonate in terms of what you've learned and what you would hope to see coming down the pipeline in future years?
So I think one of the most important things that we have to consider when we talk about access to universal pre-K is that this is a bipartisan conversation. When we talk about children arriving at school, being able to learn and make the progression that they need, it supports our business owners because when children are learning, everything is now becoming automated. And so we see this challenge right now of gaps where people don't have the workforce that they need to continue to build their businesses. We can close those things by ensuring that we are closing the literacy gap. I think the things that we want our elected officials to know is that our children are worth the investment. Our teachers are worth the investment. And we have to make sure that it is not the responsibility of just our local foundations, philanthropy, and people to do the work, that this is a business model that works for everyone. So it's not just the elected officials, it's the business owners, it's our business community stakeholders, and all coming together to really ensure that we can close this gap and get more children in seats.
Well,
I think,
thank you.
to your point, Shenell, we recently saw just a few weeks ago, actually, right, that daycare centers overall, that serve all ages of kids 0 through 5, have been struggling to stay open. And we saw that the business community really started speaking up, right? Because they had, they're having a hard time keeping employees and hiring folks to keep their businesses open and running efficiently. And boy, did they depend on daycare centers. And so one of the things that you're talking about that I really think is important is that these issues around pay and training and qualifications in a daycare center, even for, younger children, 0 through 3, are very important. So this is all related, right? So what you're doing, to me, adds into the better, it lifts up the entire daycare center, right? Then anytime you're coming in and training, even a part of those teachers, right, they're all kind of getting it, right? They're all getting the opportunity of what they call lifting the boat, right? So I think that's really powerful what you're doing in terms of focusing on not just the cost of a daycare of a child, pre-K slot, but the second part of that, making sure the teacher is trained and qualified and has opportunities to grow and learn. That makes what you're doing super powerful. So that is what intrigued us about your program and what you're doing, is the kind of two-pronged approach I looked at it as, not just saying, hey, we need more pre-K, we need more money for pre-K slots, but we also need to be talking about how we make that high quality, how we make that better experience for the kids. And that starts with paying our teachers livable wages and giving them some training and access to growth. So kudos
Absolutely.
to y'all for what you're doing there. It's remarkable and it's wonderful. And I looked at some of the stats you had in your op-ed, that after the first year of this 2-year program, you're saying that, I think it was like, let me see if I can find 72% of the
72%.
participating 4-year-olds are on par in
Yes.
literacy, and an 18% improvement from when they started. So that's pretty
That's great improvement.
pretty
Yeah.
astounding. And
Right.
do you find that in Forsyth County, how does the local match impact the number of slots that are available for just your county? Do you know how that works?
I don't. I would probably start rambling if I spoke to that. I know just enough. So yeah, I wouldn't want to get off target and start speaking to
Yeah.
that. But what I do know is that we are still not at the same level of match of many of the counties in Forsyth County who are comparable in size to us.
Okay.
But those are the things that, working together as a coalition, the leaders of like Smart Starter Forsyth County and Child Care Resource Center and even Family Services over our Head Start programs, they are working together to really advocate for ensuring that they can get increases in the amount of allocations that are coming into our community.
Oh, that's great.
Well, we do know that you're right. We don't have the exact figures today. We don't want to get off topic of your program either, but I would say that we have been told in our work with other counties that one of the barriers is the local match, that the local county match. And then for small counties, rural counties, low tax rate counties that have lower economic activity, collecting less taxes, this is a real barrier. So they don't have they don't have the facilities, they don't have the instructors, and then they don't have the local match. So one of our positions is, Shenell, and that any child who's income eligible for pre-K throughout the state should be paid for by the state, and that there shouldn't be a waiting list that's varies by county, because that doesn't seem to be fair. I like what you said, like it shouldn't matter where you live, what your zip code is, or what your demographics are. if this is a program the state thinks has merit, and they do, they fund it, even though it's inadequate, they are funding it, then it should be for everyone. And I love what your challenge is to your community, which is that challenge. Hey, we're showing that it works, it makes a difference, and we're asking the community to step in, because General Assembly has not yet, and help us make sure that living here in Forsyth County, that we give every child the same opportunity to be ready for kindergarten,
Yeah.
and then hopefully benefit throughout the rest of their educational career because of that. Heather, would you have any other questions for Shenell?
Those are our main questions, but I just wanted to say thank you again for sharing your program insights with us, and for all the fantastic work that you're doing and getting the information out to the state and helping us to get the work out to the rest of the state as well. So the more people know about it, the more we hope that we gain support for, this wonderful, pre-K programs.
I want
Thank
to
you.
end by saying I loved it when I saw your op-ed pop up and it said, let's expand access to pre-K for every child in Forsyth County. And I marked through that and said, in North Carolina, because your points that you made in your op-ed were absolutely spot on for everything that we want to do for our kids throughout the state. And I loved how you talk about the power of 4. And how it's going to take all of us to make sure that we enable the power of being four-year-old child, and getting that child what they need to start kindergarten. That's just a beautiful concept, Shenell. We really appreciate you saying that, because I think that, and one of the things you ask people today to do at the end is you say, take the pre-K priority pledge of support.
Right.
So tell us really quickly, what is the pre-K pledge of priority support? Because I want to sign it.
Right. Well, one, you could go to prekpriority.org to learn more about the pre-K priority, the pledge, the work that's happening, how you can volunteer. But the support really means, one, we support families in ensuring that everyone has access to quality childcare. But also, we believe that teachers are very important. They are our children's first professionals besides their parents. And we want to ensure that they are in a community where they feel valued, that they are being paid their worth. And so we help to close those gaps as well, and then to advocate for removing barriers that can have some children not to be able to experience the culturally competent educators in those classrooms as well. We believe not only is there power in 4, but we believe that the future is 4. And so these 4-year-olds that we are fighting for today will be the people who are running our country very, very soon. That time goes by really, really quickly. And we're advocating that as a community, we come together to make sure not only for SIFE, but North Carolina has all the things that we need for our children to learn and thrive.
So I couldn't resist. I had to go look at your website, and it's absolutely beautiful. I encourage anyone who listens to this video to go to prekpriority.org. It's a wonderful presentation about why pre-K is so important and the status of it now. Yes, this is very much geared towards Forsyth County, but the concepts, the principles, the research is applicable through every single county in North Carolina. So we really, you've done some remarkable work. The foundation has done, incredible work in this area. And I hope that lots of other county leaders and local leaders and our state legislators will actually look at what you're doing in Forsyth County as a great model for
Thank
hopefully
you.
something that could happen throughout the state. So
Well,
thank you again for joining us. We appreciate your
Thank you.
work and appreciate you taking time for us. And good luck, and stay in touch with us. We want to hear about what happens this coming year. I want you to come back and tell us what
absolutely.
happens at the end of year 2, okay?
Sounds good. Thank you all so much for having us. Yeah, have
All
a great
right.
day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.